The indoor shopping mall made its first appearance in the 1950s, and within a couple decades they had become the center of many communities. Many of these malls had something for everyone, which made them the perfect place for families. Most teens who went to these malls loved the opportunity to shop, eat, hang out with friends, and play arcade games. The 1970s and 80s are considered to be the heyday of the shopping malls, but they are still around. Throughout the years, stores and food court restaurants have had to evolve in order to keep up with the ever-changing retail shoppers. In this video, we will have a look back at some of the mall food court restaurants that have disappeared. Hot Sam Pretzels was once a popular stop for many mall shoppers across America. This particular restaurant got its start in a mall outside of Detroit, Michigan in the mid-1960s. They served up hot Bavarian-style soft pretzels that were convenient and delicious for those that wanted a quick bite. Over the next couple decades, the brand grew to over 175 locations. When it was in its height during the 1990s, it was sold to Mrs. Fields, the beloved cookie chain. In 2005, the last remaining Hot Sam restaurants were turned into Pretzel Times. If you're a fan of the Netflix show Stranger Things, then you may have noticed Hot Sam's Pretzels as being one of the food court restaurants alongside the fictional Scoops Ahoy! Harvest House Cafeteria was once an incredibly popular restaurant that was in Woolworth stores and malls. They offered entire dinners for just over $1. They were owned by Woolworth's Five and Dime stores and began serving ice cream decades before malls became popular. You might say that they were the precursor to the modern food court. In the 1960s, they opened up in shopping malls to provide a sit-down atmosphere for those shoppers who wanted a real restaurant experience. Some of the locations were really luxurious with leather seating, burgundy red carpet, brick finishings, and windows that allowed a view of the rest of the mall. By the 1990s, both Harvest House Cafeterias and Woolworth stores were fading away. But they were one of the pioneers of the modern customer experience that we all know today. Kenny Rogers Roasters was a fast food roasted chicken joint that began in 1991 and grew to around 350 locations by the mid to late 1990s. The chain was owned by the country music artist himself, Kenny Rogers, and was once referenced in a Seinfeld episode. The first location was opened in Florida, and they quickly enjoyed a successful start in the chicken restaurant business. They were well known for their roasted chicken and corn muffins made with real corn. However, their success was short-lived, and they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 1998. The company was then sold to Nation's Famous Inc., the popular hot dog chain. In turn, they ended up selling to an Asian franchisor, which now operates around 400 locations in 9 different countries. Caramel corn started about 50 years after the invention of caramel corn in the 1920s. The first retail location was in Wyoming, where the brand found early success selling in downtown storefronts. The mall boom then led to the caramel popcorn retailer opening standalone shops inside malls. By the 1980s, they had over 200 locations across the U.S. Later in the decade, they were acquired by Dairy Queen. As malls began to decline, so did the caramel corn locations. Today, the brand sells gourmet popcorn online through its existing Nebraska locations. Morrison's Cafeteria was a southeastern chain that was known for its cafeteria-style lunch and dinner offerings. They originally opened in Mobile, Alabama during the 1920s, and they offered over 70 menu items in a unique cafeteria-style dining experience. The chain grew rapidly, and they flourished through the Great Depression. As consumers migrated from the downtown shopping locations, Morrison's began popping up in large indoor malls. They offered plenty of options for the hungry shoppers, but today that is no longer the case. You will not see a Morrison's in your local food court, but it might be possible to see the restaurant group's related restaurant, Ruby Tuesday. Orange Julius became a staple in many malls across America. They started in Los Angeles, California nearly 100 years ago. It all began with their drink that blended orange juice, ice, and sugar. This sweet drink was a hit, and they eventually grew to serving hamburgers. The restaurants were franchised out across America, and in the 1960s they had grown to over 400 locations before being sold to International Industries, Inc. By the 1980s, Orange Julius had become a common sight in many shopping mall food courts and were under the wing of Dairy Queen. By 2018, all of the standalone Orange Julius locations had disappeared. Today you can find this sweet treat at Dairy Queen locations, which may even be in some of the remaining shopping malls. Britling Cafeterias arrived on the scene back in 1919 in Birmingham, Alabama. The restaurant got its name from the founder W.B. Johnson, who read the novel Mr. Britling Sees It Through by the English writer H.G. Wells. This cafeteria-style dining experience became a favorite of many people, and it wasn't long before it expanded into suburbs and other states. These restaurants weren't exactly in food courts, but they were in several malls and shopping centers. They were well known for their slogan, which was "Good food is good health," and they had a wide range of menu options. However, this restaurant chain went through a slow collapse until the last of the restaurants were closed in the 1980s. Bressler's 33 Flavors was started by a Polish immigrant named William J. Bressler in 1929. During the Great Depression, he sold ice cream bars. The idea came to him after his brother spotted a vendor selling ice cream at an air circus. Bressler and his brothers sold ice cream wholesale and eventually expanded into other franchises during the 1960s. By the 1980s, the ice cream chain was booming and could be found in mall food courts. At the time of Bressler's death in 1985, there were more than 400 stores. The chain was then sold to an investor group in 1989. It changed hands once again in the 90s before going international in 1996. The Bressler's brand disappeared altogether in 2007. It seemed like every American mall food court in the 20th century had to have at least one casual-style Chinese restaurant. General Mills attempted to get in on this trend with China Coast, which featured Chinese food. This chain did see a little bit of popularity in the early 90s before it disappeared for good in 1995. Ferrell's Ice Cream Parlor was an American ice cream parlor and sandwich chain that began in Portland, Oregon in 1963. The name came from one of the founders, which was Bob Ferrell. The restaurants had an early 1900s theme, and the employees were decked out in apparel from the time period, including a boater hat. Each location also featured a player piano. By 1975, there were around 175 locations, and some of those were in malls. The chain had been purchased by the Marriott Corporation in 1972, and by the 80s, the sales were dropping. Marriott then sold to some private investors, and by 1990, almost all Ferrell's locations had closed. One of the last original Ferrell's locations was in the Lloyd Center Mall in Portland, Oregon, and it closed in 2001. In 2008, the company restructured and tried to bring back Bob Ferrell as an advisor, but the small chain struggled. Bob Ferrell passed away in 2015, and the dream of having a bigger and better Ferrell's seemed to fade away. Many of the restaurants that we once knew as being in the mall or mostly in the mall have ventured out into their own freestanding locations. Chick-fil-A has been successful doing that, but so has Panda Express. Sbarro is another one that you may have seen outside of the mall. Food courts and malls are still seeing some success, but there is no doubt that they have seen a lot of changes over the years. I'm sure you ran into some of the local restaurants that everyone loved in the mall, but for some reason they are now gone. What were some of the favorite restaurants that you remember seeing in your food court? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching.